You are listening to the Ebony Covering Black America Podcast Network.
You are listening to Beyond the Fit, and this is Holly Cotton. The purpose of this show is to go beyond just looking fit and to cover health and wellness topics to make sure that we all become the strongest versions of ourselves. As I always say, mental health, pursuing your goals, living the life that you deserve, those are all key elements of being the strongest version of yourself and being healthy, doing something that you love, making a difference. Being healthy and fit doesn't necessarily mean just having muscles. It means that you're defining your purpose, you're living your dream, and all of that great stuff. So on today's episode, I wanted to highlight one of the awareness topics for June, and that is African American Music Appreciation Month. And I'm super, super honored to have someone come on today. But first, let me just tell you guys, why is African American Music Appreciation Month something important? Duh, because we're Ebony first, and we're always trying to highlight anything that has to do with African American culture. And if you guys are unfamiliar about why the African American Music Appreciation Month came about, it was actually because there was a huge disparity between the Black artists being highlighted. There was this problem where Black artists weren't being allowed to be on Billboard awards. They weren't getting awards. They weren't being acknowledged for all of their efforts in the music industry. And if you guys listen to any music, you know, since the beginning of time, all the artists have always sampled some African American, whether it be even from like African roots, the drums, the beats, everything. So there's always been this correlation between Black culture and music, just as today. So they kind of implemented this appreciation month to say, hey, we see that you guys have been making music for a long time and you have not been getting acknowledged and you have not been getting the approval and the awards and all of that stuff that the white artists are getting. So it actually didn't start until 1979. And even though I still think I'm 20 in my head, when I hear about anything happening in the 70s, I remember that I was born in the 70s. So this is really just as old as me, that these changes and these things were happening for us. So it's really all still very new because we still young. So don't forget that we are still young in our heads. But yeah, so it was just such a nice thing for them to start acknowledging all of these things that the Black artists were doing. So all of that to say is that I am so honored to actually have someone today. His name is Sean Keys. And let me tell you, he sent me his bio, you guys, and his bio is like 13 pages long on my phone. I think I burned off like 2% of battery just reading his bio. So we're going to go into all the awesome things that he's done. But first, let me just give you a little gist of who he is. Sean Keys, born Sean Willis in Metairie, Louisiana, representing for the Louisiana folks. And he actually started his music career, he says, around age 5, because he was playing the drums and the organ in his godfather's church, which I think most musicians start saying that same thing, like they have a foundation where they grew up in the church. I know on my last show, we were talking about how we grew up in the church and we were at, the revivals on Wednesday through Sunday. So that's where I guess he identified his passion. He's going to tell us all about it. And then around 17, Sean decided to just kind of make what his passion was into a professional music career. And then he started touring as a musician, as a music director with some gospel artists, and then just basically traveling the country and sharing his gift with everyone. So that all led into, who he is and the things that he's doing now. So thank you so much, Sean, for coming in and talking to us today.
And not a problem at all. Thank you, Holly, for having me on. It's an honor. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So first, can you tell us a little bit about each of the roles that you've played and what is your favorite? And again, like I said, I know there's a ton of roles that you have. So I guess kind of differentiate between the producer, the musician, being on the back, being in the front. Just give us a little idea of what you like.
Well, absolutely. Actually, the two main roles is being a musician and being a producer. Being a musician is more or less just playing the music that's already been given to you. And being a producer is actually a producer and a composer is actually creating those things. So I would think that probably my favorite, I love them both, but my favorite thing is probably being a producer and being a composer, because you get to actually create something from the ground up that, eventually other people will play. And you can sit there and be like, yeah, that's my song they're playing. That's pretty cool. So yeah, being a producer and a composer is probably my favorite role of all.
Yeah, and I could see how that would be exciting, because it's almost like, I guess, like a chef, and when they make some kind of special dish of the day, and then they're peeking through the window to see, like, are people liking it? Are they not? And then it also, if they don't like it, then you could be like, hey, that ain't
Right.
me. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And I love that also that you said that you were able to have those different roles, because I think a lot of people, they don't understand the work that it might take to be a producer. So I think the fact that you can come in and you can offer all of these different expertise areas just highlights how great it is and how privileged people are to be able to work with you, because you can say, I did this, I know what each one is. And also it allows you to be understanding whenever people may be struggling with something. Like, you can be like, hey, listen, I've done that also, and this is what I did to overcome that. Or these are some, some suggestions that I have.
Exactly, man. It's so critical for those people that are trying to make transition from being a musician to being a producer, that you really understand what a musician is and what a composer is, what a producer is, because they are three different roles. And yeah, it has helped me a whole lot when producing other people, to tell them or to guide them in what they should be doing during a song, because it's helped me a lot, in my career. Just like you said, knowing like, oh yeah, my challenge was this, and I can actually navigate you through this so we can get the best product. So yeah, it's really helped out a lot in my transition from being a musician to a producer, man. And I love what I do, man. I really do.
And that's also important too, because the last thing you want to do is be doing something that you hate.
Right.
So, right, exactly. And for anyone that's listening, because I know that, our show is on a podcast format. And so people listen to the show like when they're driving or, commuting or whatever. So you guys, I just want to say, like, I'm so proud, because I'm looking at Sean's background right now, and he's got all his Billboard plaques on the wall and all of his awards. And it's just like, it's always a humbling. And I like, even though I don't necessarily know people, like, I kind of feel like I always say we went to social media school together, or we're social media cousins.
Yeah.
So when I see people doing great things, I'm almost like, oh my gosh, that's my baby cousin. Oh, that's my cousin doing that. So I just love it. I just want to just bring that up, because I see the plaques behind you, and I'm just like, oh, it's so awesome. Super proud. Okay, so next question. I know in your bio, you did talk about how you worked with the R&B divas. And so that was really interesting to me, because of course, people kind of feel like they're doing stuff and you kind of don't really get the acknowledgement and the credit until you like cross over this little threshold of where now all of a sudden you're in something nationally televised or something else. Same thing with me. Like, I'm talking and doing all of this, but until I get on with my podcast, now people are like, oh, maybe she's doing something, because they believe in her. It's almost like that validation when you start doing that. I'm super interested to know, like, how did that opportunity come about? And tell us about it too.
So man, it was crazy. At that particular time, I was playing at a church in New Orleans, and the band, we were really tight, not only as musicians working together, but just as brothers, and there was an opportunity that presented itself to a friend of mine whose name is Nick Mercadale. He's a phenomenal drummer and producer as well from this area. And there was a guy from RCA at the time, Phil Thornton, who was coming in town for the Essence Festival. And of course, at that time, I think it was the first season for R&B Divas. So all of those women were booked to do a tribute that year, because what they were doing for Essence they were doing a tribute for all of the artists that had passed away that year or the previous year. So they put together a show for the R&B divas to be a part of that. So Phil called Nick and he's like, hey, man, I need a band. I'm bringing the ladies in. We're going to do a performance for Essence. And Nick happened to call me because they needed a keyboard player for the event. So it was crazy, man. I got a chance to meet everybody and I got to film the show.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Fit.
When we first started doing it, though, I didn't realize that we were actually going to be on the show. I thought they were just going to be doing the actual performance on the main stage for Essence Fest. But, you know, we're pulling up to the rehearsal and I'm walking in and there's cameras and lights and everywhere. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, we're actually, it's going to be an episode. So, yeah, so it was really cool, man. We got to rehearse with them a couple times and they filmed everything and even some kind of behind the scenes footage, backstage stuff before we went out. They filmed the performance and man, it actually went over really, really well. We were named one of the top 10 performances of Essence that year. So it was phenomenal, man. I really, really thank my brother Nick for calling me for that because it got me an opportunity to play on main stage for Essence, my first time ever doing that.
And who were some of the people in the R&B divas?
Yeah, so it was Nikki Gilbert, Monifa, Kiki Wyatt, Selena Johnson. Yeah, it was awesome, man. Faith Evans, one of my all-time favorite singers. Faith Evans, and man, they are killers, man. They all can sing. I mean, amazingly. I still follow Faith to this day on social media and everything, and kind of keep in contact with her that way. But man, it was just an awesome experience.
And, you know, anytime you start those are like when you say, even like Faith's name, even when you say her name, you automatically get some tunes start playing in your head. Like as soon, but I'm gonna save you guys. I won't pull it out for you because I don't want anybody to sign me for a contract. So I'm let the listeners not have to hear me singing Faith, but just know, I know we all start singing. Same thing for Kiki Wyatt, because she has some classics too. So that is so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're thinking about 90s R&B like legends, you know, and you know, we often have this debate about what was the best era of music. And I always say 90s R&B was like the thing. 80s pop and 90s R&B was like it was just it for me, you know. So it was just awesome to be in the presence of those people that were like just giants in the industry and, you know, being connected to them is just really sweet.
Yeah, I'm biased too. It's hard for me to relate to today's music. And I remember being young and being in that 90s genre and, you know, my dad turning the music off or like him not feeling it or whatever. And I'm like, Dad, this is cool. And now, you know, I'm with my kids and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm trying to get with it, but they're not helping me.
And see, it's crazy for me because being a producer, I have to stay, you know, relevant and hip and up to date with what's going on. So, you know, I don't ever want to get caught in a position where somebody comes to me and, hey, I need a song like NBA Youngboy and I need to sound like this. And like, wait, what? You know, being like, I got to kind of know what that sounds like in order to be able to deliver that. So, you know, my kids kind of keep me up on what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I hear my daughter playing something, I'm like, hey, what's that? And then I'll add it to my playlist and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that's almost like me being a nurse and not being up to date with different blood pressure medications or something. And then how am I going to be able to teach that to my students? And I don't even know what it is. So, yeah, you have to stay abreast of whatever it is so that's going to elevate you. So, you know, you always sound like an expert. So, yeah, that's funny. I can see you like, oh my gosh, I don't know, but I'm gonna listen to it for homework, but I ain't feeling it.
Right. Exactly what it's like.
Right. Did you learn anything during that process of being on that show? Like you said, it was your first big time going to Essence and actually performing on a stage. And not only just that, because that right there is huge. If anyone's ever been to the Essence Festival in New Orleans, but then to also be on a show as well. So did you learn anything during that process that you implemented into your career?
Yeah, I don't know if I per se learned anything. I think it just reaffirmed just the level of preparation it takes to be excellent at what you do. It was just so cool to go through all of the rehearsals that we went through, and countless amount of rehearsals with the band by themselves and then with the ladies, and then do all of that and being filmed at the same time. I felt really comfortable, even though, there was cameras all in our faces, and then being in Essence with, 60,000 people in the Superdome, screaming, it's just really cool. It just reaffirmed the fact of being prepared to be excellent is like key. So that's what I really kind of it just reaffirmed that, man. And I kind of preach that to everybody I come in contact with, especially those people that I work with, that I produce and write for and stuff. Like, man, you gotta be prepared. You always use this analogy that they said Michael Jackson practiced for 8 hours a day. Here's the king of pop that, we probably feel like, man, dude don't need to practice. He's his best. But even still being on top, he would practice for 8 hours a day just because he just wanted to sharpen his skills and make sure he was the best every time he hit the stage, So I think that's the thing that probably I took away from that.
And that's a very interesting point, because I wouldn't think about it, but I guess it's just like any profession that's out there. If you want to be the best, then you have to put in the work. And I think maybe a lot of times people do see that, which I guess is why it's important to have things like, appreciation month and to acknowledge this, because we do kind of take it for granted. Like, oh yeah, okay, well, whatever. They're performing on the show, or okay, here's Chris Brown dancing across the stage. But they don't understand that it's actually like a production. Just like to go to a movie set, they have to learn their lines. They have to know where they're doing. So I'm glad that you brought that too, so that you could show that this is a serious thing and it requires a lot of work too. You can't just sing a song like me on a microphone about to sing Faith Evans. It's a whole process. So I'm glad that you mentioned that to us. And I know that on your bio, you had a lot of things, especially a lot of your awards come from the gospel genre. And so do you feel like going into gospel has been harder for you to create a name for yourself than, say, you were going into a genre like R&B or jazz?
I wouldn't say that it's harder. I think the process is a little bit longer. And I think it's just because of the way that the gospel genre is set up, meaning there's just less radio stations for gospel than R&B or pop or country. And you can clearly tell just by looking at the Billboard charts. I mean, 2,000, 2,500 spins or less in a week would get you a number one in gospel, as opposed to 29 million spins on a country song. So it just goes to show that that's just more stations out there. But I wouldn't say that it's harder. It's just it takes a little bit longer. But that's been my roots from a kid. So I love doing gospel music, and I do more than just gospel. But I'm glad that it was gospel that got me like my first number one and brought all of the awards and the accolades and stuff like that. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's harder. It just takes a little longer, just because of the nature of the way it's set up, the genre itself. Yeah,
that's true. Like, now that you say that, because even me, like, I have satellite radio. There's a section of like 18
yes.
R&B and rap, and then I have like 2 gospel.
Exactly.
One. So I have like gospel per se, and then like maybe 2 Christian, and then 1 like old school Christian. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So the chances of getting your record in that play are not as high because there's only so many channels. So that's a good perspective. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we talked about Billboard awards, and like I said, I'm looking at all your Billboard awards plaques hanging up behind you. Tell us about the first time you actually saw your name, that feeling, and what the song was for?
Yeah, it was crazy. So my very first number one on Billboard was from a artist that was actually on BET Sunday Best, season 9. She came in fourth. Actually, I think she should have won the whole thing, but she came in number 4. Her name is Keela Richardson, and she's from Pensacola, Florida. And we did a song entitled "So Good," and you have that feeling in the studio. I mean, I can see it vividly like it was yesterday. Her manager and I were sitting in the studio with her, and he said, "Hey, Sean, play that record you sent me last week. I haven't let Keela hear it yet." Because we were actually in the studio working on some other music for her EP. And when I turned it on, her eyes just lit up like, "Oh my God, this is me." And so she's like, I got to record it, So she came in to the studio the next time we set up a session. She recorded it. She smashed it. I think she might have done the song maybe in 2 or 3 takes.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Fit.
And that's unheard of. From there, her manager, which is Greg Lyons, everybody knows him in the industry as Uncle G. He actually got his start with No Limit back in the day. And then he switched over to gospel and has been doing it ever since. But he started working the song to radio. And man, I will never forget. He FaceTimed me and Keela one morning. And he usually never FaceTimes. He'll send text or he'll call. So I knew it was something huge when I saw the FaceTime coming through. He was like, "Sean, what you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing. It's early. What's going on?" He was like, "Just want to commend y'all on having the number one gospel song in the country on Billboard, both Billboard charts." Because a lot of people don't understand, every genre has 2 Billboard charts. They have the National Gospel Airplay chart, or the Airplay chart, and then the Indicator chart. So we were number 1 on both of those, and the Mediabase chart. So we did the trifecta. So when I found out about that, it was a little bit unbelievable at first. I'm like, "Wait, are you serious?" He was like, "No, seriously." And you can kind of see it climbing up the charts because it's all public. You can look on your phones and see the chart from the top 30 on up. And man, it hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw it actually on the Billboard website. Keela Richardson, "So Good," number 1, and it had my name, Sean Keys, and all the other writers on there. And I was like, "What?" This put me in a whole nother, mind frame. And the crazy thing is that it made me more hungry to want to get another one. So yeah, man, when I got my first number 1, it was just, it was awesome. I was just really grateful to God for the opportunity, because it's hard, man. It is really hard to go number 1, especially like we just mentioned a few minutes ago, especially in gospel, with it not being, so many radio stations and things like that. It's just harder, but just to achieve that was just amazing.
Oh, that's so awesome. First, I got little chills listening to you say it because I could tell you were super excited. But I think that's also important, not just when we're talking about just necessarily music appreciation, but just in life, which is why I think it was important to have this show, because sometimes we have these things in our heads and it's almost like we have a limit to what our dream is. Like we think, "Oh my gosh, okay, so now I'm here and this is good. I have some action. I'm working, I'm doing these things." And then all of a sudden you get like the donkey with the carrot and
Right.
You're like, "Wait a minute, I might be able to go, look, okay, I see my name's going up on, could this be obtainable? Could this be something that," and then you see it and you're like, wow. So now where your bar may have been lower, now you're like, "Oh no, screw that. Now this is where I know I can be. I need to be here more often." So it's almost like your own way of pushing yourself. So people that are goal oriented and hustlers, like we know, like that, once you get that little taste of winning, you like, "Oh no, this is my life now."
Absolutely. And it helps to also, like you said before, it helps to put you in a whole nother bracket as it pertains to the people that approach you, because now you're at this level as opposed to, it also helps with the way you feel about your work. Because, man, I mean, I've been doing this professionally probably since 1999. And, it gets discouraging, at times, if I'm being completely honest, and you start kind of feeling like, man, God, I know you gave me a gift to do this, and I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but I need to see the fruits of my labor, and when it finally happens, you just like, wow, I was already on track to do it, but it finally happened. And it actually, spins off into other things, because as a result of that song, I was one of the top 10 producers on Billboard. They had started a chart for songwriters and producers, and I got on that chart for the gospel producers as one of the top 10. So, and then other things, and the BMI award that I won as a songwriters award for so it's just crazy, man. I can truly say I'm living my dream, and it's actually, I can use these things, and I have, as teachable moments for my kids. Like, look, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve with hard work and the favor of God. You can achieve whatever. The sky is the limit to what you can do if you just work hard.
Right. And also so that you can be able to say, yesterday's price is not today's price.
Right. Right.
It's nothing like being able to tell MF for that. No, sir. I love it. Okay, so next question. Any advice you would tell your younger self just starting out?
Absolutely. Don't get discouraged and don't give up. Because there were, like I said before, there were several times where I was like, man, I'm not doing this anymore. Why is it even worth it? Being looked over and pushed to the side, and even being told to your face, like, well, you haven't done enough yet, and like, yeah, I've had situations like that, but it's just cool to just sit back and just, watch God do his thing and prove all your haters wrong and all your doubters wrong. And it's crazy because I heard a quote that was said, that you don't work to prove your haters wrong. You work to prove the people that believed in you right. So that's kind of how I channeled that. But yeah, my biggest thing I would tell my younger self is don't give up, keep at it. It's going to happen for you sooner than you think.
And I think that's good advice. I remember being little, a teenager, maybe going off to college, and my dad saying that the reason why I can give you these life lessons is because this is wisdom. You still going to make your mistakes. You're still going to do that. My job is to reduce the amount of mistakes that you make by giving you some tools. So I kind of do that with my kids too. Like how you said, I tell my kids, like, hey, listen, you don't have to have your life figured out at 18, but if you have a passion, go for it, because I'm just now getting into my passion. Like the last 3 or 4 years, I've really kind of been able to find myself and heal from broken relationship and all of this. And this person that I am right now, I wish I had her years ago, and she was in there. I just didn't know I could bring her out. So that's kind of like what I try and, hey, you can do this, stick to it. So I'm glad you said that too. Don't give up, because if it's your passion, it's going to come the point of failure or whatever. You don't want to wake up at 50 and have spent 25 years doing something you hate. So that's really great advice.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so that was kind of leading into my next question anyway, which is, how do you juggle being a dad and having such a demanding career? Because I know it's late nights, early mornings, so sometimes no sleep. And like you said, tell us if you don't mind. I don't want to make you have to go into all your business or whatever, but just maybe your kids or the ages and how you figured out how to say, I'm still here and I'm active dad, but I'm also going to not give up on my dream.
Right. Absolutely. So I have an 18-year-old. His name is Micah. I have a 16-year-old getting ready to be 17-year-old. His name is Nathan. And then my 2 girls, Sydney's 10 and Aubrey's 5. It's about balance. It's really about balance. This music industry and what I do can really be taxing, and people will really kind of use you up. But you have to try to keep a balance. Like as far as being a producer, I can kind of schedule my stuff like I want to. I try to work during the day when everybody's gone or at school. And if I have a session that needs to be at night, I try to schedule them earlier. So I'm back home 10, 11 o'clock, maybe midnight at the latest. But I think that's the biggest part of it is just, and then even with my jobs with church, because I'm a music director at a church as well, you just have to go in saying, hey, this is what I'm able to do. Here's what I'm not able to do. I'm not going to be here every day this week. I can't do that. I'm not going to be here, from Monday to Friday and then got to come here on Sunday too. So you have to kind of establish those boundaries per se in the beginning so that, you can enjoy your family. Like we go on vacations, we do stuff. And I feel like the balance has helped me be more sane as well, because you don't want to be all work, and then your family's lacking. And I try to make it to all of my kids' games. Both of my boys play basketball. Both of my girls play soccer. They're in dance. My oldest daughter's a cheerleader at school. I mean, they have busier schedules than I do. But I try to make sure I'm available for as much as I possibly can be. Like I made it my business last year. My oldest son was a senior. And he's a basketball star, as my younger son is as well. And he got a scholarship to college. But I said his senior year, I wanted to make sure I made every game. And I did. I made every game his senior year. And I was actually there, which I would have been really upset if I would have missed the night he scored 33 to go over 1,000 points for his high school career. And I was there to film it, doing my dad thing with my camera in the stands and screaming and losing my voice. And the video is actually on YouTube of that too. But I was just grateful that I was able to have the flexibility to be there. And so that's how I just balance it out, man. Look, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. Let's all just work around each other's schedules to make it happen. That's how I do with my production as well. I work during the day creating. If there's something that's really pressing, I'll wait until everybody in the house is asleep. And I know they don't need me at that time because they're sleeping. Then I can get in here and kind of work, So yeah, that's how I kind of do it. Just balance, man. That's the thing. Just balancing everything out.
And that is so awesome. Oh, I just like you so much more now. I love dads. I'm a dad's girl. I mean, if you follow me on social media, I love my daddy, okay?
Right.
So I love that. And I love that you said that because one, being a woman, and being a little on the feminist side, I do tend to have more of a strong female view. So I'm very happy that you explain that also, because I know I'm always kind of like talking about the demanding roles of a mom, being a single mom, this and that. So I love that too, whenever you brought that up, because I do see so many great dads. I love to see great dads, and because I had a great dad. And so I just appreciate your transparent moment there and just telling us about that. You can definitely see how proud you are. You can hear how proud he is. He's a big goober for his kids. I love it. I love it.
Look, I'm Google over my kids, man. It's like I probably go overboard. You know what I'm saying?
That's all right. I'd much rather that than nothing. Opposite side.
Exactly, because for too long, Black fathers have gotten a bad name, and rightfully so, for some people that just don't do what they're supposed to do. And I just always said that, my dad has always been there for me, and I was not at all gonna have a situation where I got, kids and I'm not there for them, and I know I probably do way too much at times, but I'm honored that I get to do it. I tell my kids, man, I'm honored to be your dad, because they're great kids. All four of them, they're great kids, and they got greatness on the inside of them. And I'm just happy to see them, achieve their dreams, and I'm trying to help to push them to get there. And like you said before earlier, like I want to make sure you don't make some of the same mistakes I did. So if I could kind of, guide you, I want to do that. That's just a role of a dad. That's like, I always tell people, like, everybody asks me, like, what is my biggest, thing that I'm the most proud of? And man, I'm gonna tell you, it's not these number ones on this wall back here behind me. It's being a dad and my kids being like, man, my dad's cool. My dad's great. My dad's always there. That's like the biggest thing for me.
Oh, heart. If that was a post, I would have put a bunch of pink hearts on the post. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so last question. What are some of Sean Key's goals for this year and also long term? Because I know you kind of hit a whole bunch of stuff unexpectedly along the way. So now that your projection is way higher than what you thought your goals would be, what are your goals for this year and then long term?
My goals for this year is to just keep creating great music that people can listen to and apply to their lives. The thing about gospel is that it's so encouraging and empowering. So it's like I want to keep doing that to help people get through their lives. The other thing is that, man, I want to win a Grammy. We were so close with Keela's project, with her single. We were so close. We just knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, with all the accolades and all of the awards that the song had gotten already. And then her next single after that also went number one. We just knew that, man, we gotta be a shoo-in for this Grammy. But for 2 years, we didn't even get a nomination, which was, and I'm going to be honest, it was a little bit heartbreaking, for everybody in my camp. Was just like, what? Like, how does this happen? So, one of my long-term goals is, because here it is again, what we talked about, it's another level. Once you win a Grammy, it's like nationally, everybody is on to what you're doing. They're locked in and focused. And not just to do that, but not just because of that, but I just think, that I'm deserving. Just because of the work that I've put in and the gift that God has given me. And I work really hard at this, and you want to be recognized by your peers at the highest level. So, and in music, that's considered the highest level. So, and it's crazy because I'm very, very, very hopeful, because a lot of my friends around me have won Grammys. The guy that's my engineer, his name is Reggie Nicholas. He's PJ Morton's engineer as well. They both won Grammys, multiple. So it's like, if y'all getting blessed like that, that means, I'm in the same neighborhood, so, and all I know I just need to just keep working. It's going to happen. It's not a question of if. I think it's more of a question of when it's going to happen. So yeah. My goal is that one of my other goals is that I want to win a Stellar, which is gospel music's Grammy, which I have won one of those, but I wanted to do it where I won all three in a year: the Stellar, the Dove, and the Grammy, all in 1 year. So I'm just working hard at that to happen. I know, right? Fingers crossed. Yeah. So, I mean, and if I don't ever achieve that, man, it's cool, man. I'm still, making people's dreams come true. I work with a lot of new artists, people that are just jumping into the industry. So that's kind of cool for me to be foundational in these people's careers, like being the first. So I'm cool with that. But yeah, that's something that I really want to achieve at some point.
Well, I always say, yeah, it's great to have a purpose in life. You feel like you have a passion, but what is that purpose and what are you working for? Like, you don't want to just constantly just be doing something. And there's no, how do I measure that I'm where I'm supposed to be? How do I measure that my passion and I'm living to my potential? So, I think those are good measuring points. And you should also always have some type of something where at least have an objective. It may not have to necessarily be like, this is my final goal, but what are my objectives? How do I know that like you said, now I'm also being acknowledged by my peers. I'm being recognized by people who never even heard of me before. So I definitely believe in you. I already know. Yes, I remember when he was on my show. I love that. So last thing is, tell anyone that's listening how they can support you and follow your adventures. Drop any links, any way, any social media, whatever, how you want people, because someone might be listening like, oh shoot, I have a passion to sing. What can I do?
So first I would tell you, just go to my website. It's www.iamseankeys.com. You can check out everything that I've done. I even have some snippets of some music I've produced on the website. Also, my social media, you can follow me on Instagram at The Smoothest. It's DASMOOTHEST. And my Facebook page is Smooth Tunes Productions. And my Twitter is Smooth Tunes Prod, PROD. It's short for production. They wouldn't let me get the whole name in there for some reason. But yeah, you can follow me on there, man. And just, I'm very active on social media. I'm always posting what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll go live while I'm in the studio so you can actually see the process and things like that. So yeah, that's the best way to connect with me.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that. Love that. Thank you, Sean, for coming on and telling us your story and all of that great stuff, motivating us. I'm about to get my life all together now. At the end of all my shows, I always do something called a life check. In my book, Day One, A Guide to Organizing and Executing Your Goals, I have things called life checks. And basically, it's a point where we reiterate everything that we've talked about so far to make sure that any important topics aren't missed, and just a way to remind yourself going forward what I need to do to implement. So today's life check, super, super easy, super simple. It's basically finding that purpose. Again, part of being healthy is having a purpose in life. What are you living for? Are you happy? And if you're not, like Sean said, he's been doing this since 2019, really. And so he's never given up. So if you try something today and it's not working, don't give up. Continue to pursue, continue to achieve everything that you want to achieve. And also just remember that if you have a 1% chance of winning, why aren't you fighting for it as we all continue to go beyond the fit?